So today we are jumping right into controversy. We're going to be talking about UPFs. John, what is a UPF?
We're talking about some ultra-processed food?
Ultra-processed foods.
Let's do this.
That is this week on the Edible Valley podcast.
Welcome to the Edible Valley podcast.
We want to invite you as we embark on a culinary journey through the heart of Vancouver Island
From the fertile fields,
to the pristine waters of the Pacific Ocean.
we'll explore the stories behind the food that nourishes us.
Tune in to each episode as we deep dive into the flavors, the traditions, and the innovations that make this a true paradise.
Now please join us as we explore our Edible Valley.
This is a bit of an interesting one this week.
Yeah, you're kind of throwing me off a little bit because
I
it's
know.
something I'm not really strong on.
No.
Or maybe I know more than I do, but
Am I the expert?
You're going to be the expert today. Because I'm kind of really curious about this, and I know where we're coming from, and it's something we've always talked about with the Edible Valley podcast,
Indeed.
right?
Yeah.
Like we've always been about keeping it fresh, keeping it local.
Yeah.
Doing your own cooking from scratch. Those are just things I've always done.
Well, exactly.
Not that, I'm completely innocent here where I have snuck off and eaten a few ultra-processed foods, or once in a while treat myself to an ultra-processed food once in a while.
Well, I think it's about balance, but they say it's about balance, and you get all these, awful cereals that are definitely ultra-processed foods, and it says, this is a balanced diet and just have one bowl, and a bowl is like a tablespoon of it. And it's almost, it is a classic example, actually, what I just gave, of where if you follow what the food industry have told you to do, they're not going to guide you in the right way.
Right.
You actually have to follow what you believe is right. We're going to try and give you some details about ultra-processed foods today. And, of course, this is the Edible Valley podcast. We are coming to you from the Comox Valley. This is a relevant thing, I think, because right here in the Comox Valley, we are blessed with a great food scene. But not all of us get 100% of the foods from the Comox Valley Farmers Market.
No.
I certainly don't, or Edible Island, or one of those great places, Seafoods. But when you are going off in that direction and getting something from maybe one of the supermarkets that we've got around here, like Thrifties, Quality Foods, or even Real Canadian Superstore, you need to know that it's a minefield, and you might think you're getting something healthy and you're not, and that's what we're going to talk about today. John, talk to me about what you consider to be an ultra-processed
Well,
food.
let's get into this. Like, what is ultra-processed foods? And I think really what we're looking at is we're foods that are like, breads that are set for long periods, like ready meals, a lot of breakfast cereals, a lot of cakes and desserts, a lot of potato chips, a lot of the stuff that we consider as junk food.
Absolutely.
Are ultra-processed food.
But this is the scary thing, and almost the thing that I want to focus on, is that it's not always the things that we consider junk food. And you took the example of bread, and let's use the natural pairing of margarine.
Oh, yeah.
They are almost, in most cases, they are considered ultra-processed foods because of the preservatives and the things that they put in them to make them quickly, to transport them, to stop them from going moldy. But there is more and more evidence coming out to suggest that these things we actually have to be careful what we say, because
we don't want to criticize anyone for.
Well, we can't criticize anyone, but when you get close to the point of truth, you might actually get yourself sued, because these people that run this system are very into protecting themselves. So you need to hear the seriousness of that we're saying this. Like, we can't even say what we want to say. That's scary, isn't it, though?
Yeah, but I think we have the opportunity to point people in the direction of other things, right?
100%.
Like,
and keep it positive as well. I don't want to be negative.
Because there's a lot of things that people can get confused with between, like, a lot of foods are processed, and it's a lot of the ways that we process those foods is how we get what we get out of them, right? Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, like you can even, some of your basic things, think about bacon, cheese, ham. They're all processed foods, right? Like they're literally put
No
into
problem
brine.
with that at all.
But then there's things like jams and stuff like that. I think it's the other things that you add in there to make them last a little bit longer. And that's maybe something we could even just talk a little bit about. It's just like there are some bonuses to having ultra processed foods.
Great. They're taking a different angle.
I mean, and I just wanted to throw this one out there a lot of it is like for preserving food.
Yep.
And what it is they're taking into consideration not the eating it part of it, but the actual having food presentable.
You're 100% right.
Like, so we're having food that can last longer on the shelf.
It's benefiting someone, otherwise it wouldn't be doing
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So there's the benefit right there is that it's healthy. It's on the shelf. It lasts a lot longer. A lot of the, then we have a lot less food waste too, right? Because you have a product that's more shelf stable,
I mean, okay, so one of the books that I've been reading is called Ultra Processed People, and it's something I thoroughly recommend you doing. But in terms of food waste, I want to quickly explain how this book came about and how ultra processed foods are now becoming a real thing that people are noticing. And I'm picking up on this because they actually now describe the food that is ultra processed foods as an industrially produced food-like substance.
Right.
An industrially produced food-like substance. Food-like, but not food. Right. So I would say you could waste as much as you want of some of that stuff, and it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. The cereals and things like that. Now, the key is that that this is bad for you, because if you know that, you can choose. You can say, right, well, I'm going to do this, but I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go for a run, and I really enjoy it, and I like the taste, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. Because some of these things are so heavily refined that they have addictive qualities. But if you know that, like if I decided I was going to smoke cigarettes for a week, I would be aware of the damage, and I would be aware of what I needed to do to stop addiction coming. Of course. So it would be a fair fight. And I'm trying to arm you a little bit for that, because you can try. I mean, I want Kit Kat, I like Twix, I had Pringles earlier on in the week, but I know that
there's all those things, like there's a lot of different flavors that are different out there. There's one thing too that I wanted to get in about some ultra processed foods is also, fortification of nutrition. Right, so they can put more vitamins into things.
Well, they've just stripped them out in the refining process.
Well, and
then they put about 2%.
That's one of those things too.
You are trying to be devil's advocate, and I'm going to come back to you. Yeah,
and there is some things too that can get a little bit confusing with labels and stuff like that, like understanding what those ingredients actually are. Yeah, because like I always laughed about the thing about they put seaweed in ice cream.
Right.
And I'm like, well, they put agar-agar, which is a byproduct of seaweed.
Okay.
And so that is a thickener agent. And so that's one of those things where you get those little stories, like, so it's a lot of understanding. So that's why with ultra processed foods, I find it very difficult for myself because I don't fully understand the whole concept of it. And I'm really, really slow to jump on board and be like, this is all poison. Yeah. Because some of it may be poison, and some of it maybe not. But it's like, I think definitely like reading the ingredients list on your food is like the biggest key to anything. And if you don't
know what it is, and to know that it's written often in a way where it's designed to manipulate you. So if you see the word caramel, for example, right, they want you to think of creme brulee and France and all these lovely things in our mind. And it's not. It's hiding something more sinister.
It's burnt sugar.
How? No, it's not though. A lot of the not absolutely.
No, I get it.
These are E numbers.
Yes,
so
true enough.
This book got made when essentially in the last 20 to 30 years, Brazil has moved from a traditional diet to what we would call a modern Western diet. Mm-hmm. A group of scientists in Brazil decided to get together and try and work out why suddenly everyone in Brazil is getting overweight. They're getting sick. They're getting anxiety. They're suddenly this generation is starting to die off quicker than the previous generation. Like, why is Brazil suddenly starting to get all these huge problems where they weren't getting it? Why are we going in that direction? ever more specialists, ever more medical technology.
Yes.
But still, the fact is, people are getting fatter, they're getting sicker, and they're dying sooner.
Oh.
So what is going wrong? Well, I'm holding up the sheet of paper. I'm holding up my script. It's this.
Well,
this is what's happening. This
I
is what
know
it is.
there's a lot of those things that we're adding to our foods.
Was that
aren't...
Justin Waddell? But you don't know Justin, do you? He's the news guy. He was the news guy here.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
I wasn't paying attention.
We're in the Jet FM studio, by the way.
I know. We get to watch people walk by here all the time. It's kind of fun.
Quickly jump in with that. We're in the 98.9 Jet FM studio. We're very grateful for them letting us in here.
Oh, yeah.
State-of-the-art downtown Courtney studios. John, what were you saying?
Well, I can't even remember. No, what I was saying was that you have to actually go back and listen to some of our old podcasts with, oh God, I'm blanking on his name. The doctor. The doctor. He was a First Nations doctor.
Okay.
Here from Bella Coola. Sorry. It's been a lot of years. Anyways, great guy. But he got onto the paleo diet because he found himself living up in Bella is that it's all processed food that go into there.
Okay.
And that he was put on tons of weight. His life was miserable. He hated himself. And then he went on to the paleo diet. So he went to that farmer or the hunter-gatherer diet and ate a more traditional diet. And all of a sudden, his life turned around. He lost all that weight. Things returned back to him. It was just, it's amazing, right? To think that you take those ultra-processed things out of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that I'd like to draw as a conclusion from that is that it is the inserting of natural foods, and you can have natural carbs, natural fats, and natural everything, but it's the taking away of those unnatural lab-grown chemicals.
Well, when you have those things with people who say eat low fat. Oh,
gosh,
like low-fat yogurt, and what do? They pump it full of sugar.
Yeah.
To balance the fat content.
And starches that have been manipulated to create texture.
Exactly, to get those tastures.
All right, so tastures.
That's my name.
All right.
I was hoping you would miss that one, but yeah.
No, not at all, mate, not at all. Right, now I don't want to be a misery guts today, but I do want to get... I have a bit of a misery guts, aren't I? Do you want to tell me a joke?
No.
I
got nothing for you today, Will.
Let's go through this list of things that you're going to find on the ingredients
list.
Let's
ramble through a few,
Yeah, we're going to talk about what they are. We're going to talk about what they're going to be found in, what they're there to do, because they're there to make profit for the profit-making food industry. No
they're
doubt
also
about
to
that.
stretch things out. So
to make profit.
Profit.
Yeah, length of time, all of that is to help them make more money. They might find a chemical which we'll call chemical W, and that chemical makes that product B last another 7 weeks. They don't, as long as it's marked as safe. I mean, not sure how much. Anyway, as long as it's marked as safe, they'll look on the balance sheet and go, "Oh my gosh, we've just made."
You know what, Will?
$1 million more a year.
For you. You have to. This is a little bit of a history lesson to go back, but I watched this program. It was about canning food in the United States.
Yeah,
and it was absolutely fabulous because this was before regulations and all that. And what they would use to preserve food in cans was crazy. Like they were literally injecting poisons into the cans, and that's what they were giving to all the American troops and stuff like that when they were and they were literally there's all these studies they did. It was a fabulous show. I'm going to look it up and put a marker on there.
Sorry, I'm moving the microphone
for it, but it was like, it's funny how our food industry changes and how we don't represent till much later till we realize, So.
Well, I really I mean, we're not going to cover even 1% of this in this show, and but I will say one thing you can do is you can look back at the motivation of the person you're getting your food from, and see how good it is from that. Because if your food is there to create profit for a company, for a big company especially, where you don't know the owner, then their motivation is to make profit. And if that person is a farmer, their motivation is to feed you. Farmers feed you. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. Companies, they don't necessarily do that unless they really talk that up.
Yeah.
And you have to do digging and you have to see where they're coming from. And there are some excellent companies out there, but you have to do it. But almost all farmers that I know are there to feed people and feed their families, feed their community. So if you're having food that's there to make profit, ice cream in the superstore, that's not going to be good.
Right.
It's there to make big company money.
Well,
if
you can look, and a lot of times you can almost look at by price.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can tell you can buy like ice cream for very cheap.
Yeah.
Or you can buy it for very expensive.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
And the difference is what is in it.
And if you go, and if you go over to Blue Spruce or you go to Arzina on her farm, Amara Farms, she's going to be wanting to feed you. Blue Spruce, it's a small business. They make everything from scratch.
Same with Love's up in Cumberland.
Yeah, they want to feed you ice cream. They want you to enjoy it, and then everyone sees it, and then it creates a sustainable business.
Exactly.
Totally different. All right, okay. Okay, so essentially, let's start right from the top. Artificial sweeteners.
Right.
Do you want to name a few?
What are we talking about?
We're talking about like Diet Pepsi, things like that.
Oh, like the artificial. There's. Thanks, Will, for putting me on the spot.
I'll jump.
Other than just straight up sugar.
We're talking no diet sodas don't have sugar.
Don't have sugar. So
Yeah.
you're talking about like
talking about aspartame. Yeah.
You're talking about stevia.
Yeah.
Which is actually
Sometimes
a natural
stevia's not
plant.
too bad. Yeah,
It's a
and
natural
stevia's not too
plant,
bad.
so-
I don't even think stevia is considered ultra processed food. It
No.
might be, but it's and sucralose. So it's found in diet sodas, sugar-free gum, things like that, and it's there to provide a sweetness. It's probably the most obvious, but it's actually now there are some concerns that it's linked to metabolic issues and also increased cravings for sweet foods. This is a particularly interesting one. If you're eating lots and lots of these fake sugars, you just need to look out for increased cravings for sugar later on, because supposedly your body's reaction to something sweet is getting ready for something sweet to come in, and then it'll crave it when that sugar doesn't arrive.
Oh, okay.
So again, am I saying don't have these things? Absolutely not.
No.
I trust me. I say I had Pringles this week. They're delicious. Okay, and it's not killing me. But you want to have it as part of a balanced diet, and you want to understand it's highly refined food. Okay, let's go quickly on to the next one. High fructose corn syrup. What do you know about that?
High fructose corn syrup, like glucose and those. So it's processed corn.
Yeah.
Been reduced down to get the sweetness out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's not. It's definitely frowned upon. It doesn't have the same sort of nutrition as a lot of things done, and so I think that's kind of a fake nutrition.
Yeah,
It gives
absolutely.
you a sweet thing without
It's
giving you any...
absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's used in candy, sweetened yogurts. You want to look out for that. Baked goods, processed snacks.
I've used it in products before, and because basically you can give it that sugar sweet flavor without over sweetening things.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
It's also used as a preservative, and the concerns around that, insulin resistance, diabetes, things like that, heart disease. All right, we're getting a little bit further down onto the list. Monosodium glutamate, MSG. You've probably heard of MSG.
I love MSG.
Okay.
You know what? Like, there's literally, oh man, like I could go on for hours about MSG. MSG is umami, right? Like MSG is flavor, and it's in everything. And there's literally anyone who says they're allergic to MSG.
Has anyone said they're allergic to it?
It's the whole thing about people wouldn't eat Chinese food because of the MSG in it, and that they were like...
I heard about that link.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand that, to be honest.
Well, it was interesting because I watched this study where they actually invited 20 people in that all had MSG issues, and said every time they went out and they had Chinese food, they got migraines and blah, blah, blah. And as they were doing, they were handing out a bag of Doritos.
Right,
for everyone to eat. So they did a thing and they're like, well, we can't complete the survey today. Can you all come back tomorrow? Yeah. So they ate all these Doritos. Everyone came back. And they said, how did you guys sleep last night? How was everything? Did anyone have any problems? Everyone's like, no, we're totally fine. And they're like, but you guys are all allergic to MSG. And they're like, oh yeah, we're definitely allergic to MSG. I'm like, well, you ate all those Doritos and they're full of MSG.
They're full of MSG.
And no one had an issue with it. So it's an interesting one. Yeah. It's very big in like Asian cuisine, right? As in Chinese food, I was saying.
Yep.
And I think what the problem that a lot of people might have with Chinese food is it's because it's North American Chinese food. Let's get real about this first of all, which is a whole
it's not authentic.
Literally, we should do a podcast about Chinese food, because it is amazing the fact that they were able to independently produce the same amount of foods across North America and do it better than some of the big chain restaurants like McDonald's and Burger King and all those things. But they were independent businesses, yet they all created the exact same dishes and spread it across and made this North American food. But it's so heavily concentrated in fat and sugar that I think most of the people would have those issues with those foods from that, because they don't eat a diet of very sweet, like you sweet and sour pork, like
yeah. All right, you know a lot about that. I'm not going to put up too much defense, but I'm going to say that from what I have seen, whenever you go too far from nature, you're going to see a side effect.
Yeah. Now, MSG is something that is very much in a lot of products naturally occurs. So
yeah.
So it's one of those ones that I wouldn't be so.
Here's the thing though, because obviously it won't surprise you to know that it can cause symptoms such as obesity. And the reason for that is it's quite refined and addictive.
Yeah.
And so you might find that if you're consuming things with lots of MSG, maybe say you're on a diet, but you're like, well, that's fine. I'm going to just have this and it has MSG, but I'm going to have it within my calorie restricted diet. Well, it's got an addictive element built into it. So it's like you're going to have far more of a draw back to it, and your diet's far more likely to fail if MSG is involved, which is why it's linked so much to obesity.
Well, I think it falls back to if you look at like ramen noodles,
gosh.
Mr. Noodle, right? Like you throw that in there, you're like,
yep,
it's like that. That's a high processed white
one of them.
flour to begin with. So yeah, I can totally see that. So,
all right, let's skip a few. Go down. Right, trans fats.
Hey,
we're all in agreement here.
Well, that's been outlawed, right?
That has been outlawed.
Like we're not supposed to use trans fats in anything, and that was. And it's kind of funny that we actually took away saturated fats and removed them from our diets to put trans fats in there.
But saturated fats aren't always bad, are they?
No, there's no studies that's ever proven that. Well, there's no long-term studies that have ever proven that too much, or sorry, if you eat lots of saturated fats or you eat lots of unsaturated fats, that your diet's going to be different.
So I don't know if they've been banned in the States.
What's that? Trans fats? I think you still are like there's a small portion of trans fats are allowed, but it's like very minimal. But it's something. It's because you have to manipulate the oil to make it into that sort of fat, and so that's one of those things that when your body eats it, it doesn't know what to do with it, or at least that's as far as I understand it.
This is used to extend shelf life and improve texture. Largely, yeah,
and that's what fats do in products when you're making a baked good or something like that. Definitely smooth out your product.
This is something I really want to talk about: emulsifiers, lecithins, mono and diglycerides. What do you know about them? We're a bit further down the list now.
I know I have a lot of difficulties pronouncing them.
Yeah, I've actually just been reading up so much. Right, we're really into it now. You see an emulsifier and you might think, if you're a normal person, like, is that good? It's probably not great, but is it the worst? You know, these are found in ice creams, margarines, a lot in salad dressings, and then processed baked goods and in chocolate. And it's supposed to blend ingredients that would otherwise separate. So if you've ever made something from scratch that just doesn't look how it would. Peanut butter. I mean, I'm going to say this. I don't know if they use these emulsifiers in peanut butter, but I do know if you ever buy it pure, the Adams ones at least, you got the oil on the top, then the nuts,
separate after
and everything else. And it all separates, and actually you just turn the jar over. I found that out recently. You just turn the jar over very easily. Anyway,
all those years of sticking a fork in there.
I know, absolutely. Well, I just stick the Ninja mixer in there, and it makes the most awful mess. So there's evidence now showing that it might disrupt gut bacteria, and that could even lead to inflammation and metabolic disorders. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues I have with that, to be honest.
No, I agree.
So, yeah, emulsifiers, finding that in ice cream. If you ever want to leave ice cream outside on a hot day and wonder why it is melted but not changed shape.
That's from emulsifiers.
Watch that. It's there. Because the amount of times ice cream changes temperature where it's produced in a central location. Say we have an ice cream that's produced in Ontario. We're in British Columbia. So it's coming all the way across the country. It's going to be loaded from, it's got to be frozen, then loaded, and then out, and then into the store, and then the fridge doors opening. All these temperature changes. If it was blue spruce ice cream, it would have long since melted.
Yeah.
And it would look awful.
Yeah. But I mean, nowadays systems are pretty good, right?
No, they're good to do that, but
because we're using refrigeration trucks and all that stuff.
Exactly. But it's still the case that, I mean, if you ever open a supermarket ice cream and see that it's all freezer burnt, that just shows that the temperature changes are there. Emulsified. Yeah. And imagine the product loss. Again, we're talking about profit again.
Yeah.
But imagine the loss of revenue by, it all comes down to percentages. But do you care about that for your body and your kids and your,
true.
The percentages? No. You want them to be fed. So watch emulsifiers.
That's
again,
great.
not going to kill you individually, but go on. You're going to move on.
Well, no, I was thinking let's maybe move on just a little bit because I know we're running close on time.
Yeah, we've probably got one more.
Because I know, we'll do one more and then maybe we can talk a few tips to.
Yeah, go on then. All right,
this,
xanthium gum. That's the one you're going to see it in a lot. It's spelt with an X. Xanthan gum. Xanthium gum is how you pronounce it. So again, salad dressings, sauces, gluten-free products, ice creams again, some soups. It's used as a stabilizing and a thickening agent.
Right.
And the concerns here is that it could cause some digestive discomfort and bloating in sensitive individuals. And the final thing I'll say is there is sometimes an unknown effect of what this has on long-term health. But if you look at the way the world is in the West, particularly with food, do you see?
Yeah.
All right.
No, that was a great list. Well, I think that was great. So I think like moving forward here, as you're a person, I think doing certain things and tips that you can do is like, as I think we talked about, was like just reading labels.
Yeah.
Right. And then questioning what those things are.
100%.
A lot of these things that we've talked about today, I have used through the industry in certain things. And as in you use certain things as stabilizers, even especially when you get onto like the guest I'll make cooking and stuff like that, there's a lot of neat things that you can do with food. Maybe it's not as healthy or as, I shouldn't say as healthy, but like you can create some really interesting textures and flavors and using these products, like I've used a lot of products to do some really interesting little things, but it may not be the best. And so that's why I recommend, like having a diet that's well balanced.
Yeah. Balance is important. 100%. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And I find like a lot of our over obeseness even myself, as I put on some weight over the last couple of years, I think that's from.
He rubbed himself. When
my
he
tummy.
said that.
You can see it on the
Please
thing,
never do that to him.
And a lot of it has just been, I mean, a little bit I'm slowing down in my life, but like eating some more refined products, right? Even that comes from looking at like really refined processed flours, like the difference between having white flour and a whole wheat flour. There's more nutrition, there's more for you, it's more filling for you. And so we have a lot of empty foods.
It's going to keep you fuller for longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are some apps you can look at as well, really good practical apps.
We're kind of really lucky in our life that we have these things.
It's double-edged sword with technology to not get too addicted to it, but it's certainly there to help us. Yaku is a recent I just realised it's Yuku. YUKA. Yuku. And it will give you the food a point out of 10 if there's any of the things I've described today that are of cause concern. There'll be a big red dot and it'll tell you exactly the information. And this is what we're trying to get to you, because I do eat my naughty food as well, but it is just about you giving consent. You're knowing what it is and you giving consent for that. Another one to look at is Bobby Approved. There's a YouTube channel with a guy called Bobby. His company is called Flav City, and he is just amazing with foods, and almost everything is logged on his app, even stuff up here in Canada. He's from California, I think, and he will either approve it or disapprove it. And if he disapproves, the ingredients is right there on the app, and it's highlighted the reason why he's saying no.
Right.
And it might be like soybean oil, and you click on it, and it tells you exactly
why,
what
because
this
of
is.
soybean oil.
Yeah. And so you can see if it's Bobby approved or not. I have stuff all the time that's not Bobby approved, but again, I'm looking at it and going, all right, what is it that's wrong here?
Yeah,
And
well,
then
it's
I'm
a little bit of doing your own research.
Yeah.
I say another thing to make life easy for you, just go to the farmer's market.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah.
The other thing is do some cooking at home. Spend some time.
And you can actually save a bit of money by cooking things yourself.
Make your own salad dressing. It's not very hard, like you need a little oil.
As someone
vinegar,
now, I feel like I can actually
pepper, maybe an onion, shallot.
With one child and another one on the way, I can and full-time job as a very dedicated local realtor. Roll the page in the Comox Valley. William Stringer. WilliamStringer.com. But as a busy father living in a busy house, it's all about planning. It is all about planning, because I get it. To say, make everything, go to the farmer's market. All right. Not everyone has enough money to go to the farmer's market. I don't.
And they don't have the time.
At the time, so you're going to be drawn into the supermarkets every now and then. At least go armed with the information. But what I do, we now have a bread maker. We make all our bread. Because bread, it can be really evil in terms of some of the stuff that goes in there.
That's true.
So we make all our own bread.
Well, and that's one I always say, like, buy a better quality bread, and you'll get more out of it. The
problem is, though, and I'm kind of sticking up for people that haven't got as much money.
No, it's true.
Better quality bread. You might be talking $9-10 a loaf.
And
if you've got a family of 4, you're getting through that in 2 days.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, my son's spending $100 a month on bread. It's just not possible for everyone.
It's true.
Now we've decided that we'd rather make our own bread. And the money is just a nice little saving. But if you have the right system for making your own bread, it's very quick. It's literally right. Go, 1.5 cups of water. You're going to put some maple syrup. You're going to put some salt. You're going to put molasses. You get all these stuff. It's ready to go. And it's just boom, 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 go. Press go. The yeast, the flour, obviously. You have to do it in the order that the bread... And the bread machine will come with a bread book, and it'll have this. And it literally is... It's a 5-minute job. And then you press go, and it takes 4 hours to cook, but that's not... You're not doing anything.
That's like, what I do focaccia bread all the time.
Yeah.
And I do a sticky focaccia bread.
You make great focaccia bread.
And it's so much fun because it's literally... I use it when I'm working around the house and doing projects.
Yeah.
Because it's like every half an hour I've got to knead it.
Yeah.
So it's great. So I literally will do...
I'll
knead it. I'll do the first knead, and then I'll set a timer for half an hour, and then I'll go off and do projects around the house, right? Like whatever I got to do. If I'm doing a research project, or if I'm reading a book, or if I'm just paying my taxes, whatever, or cleaning the bathroom or something like that. Do that. Then I come back, half an hour comes. Of course, it's been the bathroom, give my hands a real good washing.
Yeah.
Knead the bread again, off for another half an hour. And I do that like 4 times.
Your focaccia bread is so good. I made a focaccia bread. Second thing I ever made a bread machine. It wasn't as good as yours, but it's still very good.
Wow. It's just about spending a little bit of time. And I mean, bread's great because it takes 5 minutes to make, but it's over 2 hours, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You just got to work it into other projects. So
yeah. All right. Well, we've been 30 minutes.
Holy, we've
been
going
35
here.
minutes, actually.
All right.
So we need to go.
Yes, it's time to go.
Should we say bye? Bye.
Well, I would like to thank everyone out there. I'd like to thank you for actually paying attention to our little gibberish about how we love to create and have good food in our lives, and want to encourage you to go out there and actually look at what's on the box and really look at your own food.
Yeah.
And make some sense of it.
And if we missed anything, do connect with us on socials. We'd love to hear from you, and thank you so much for listening. It's the Edible Valley podcast live. Well, it is live right now. Recorded live at the Jet FM studios in downtown Courtenay. Thank you so much to those folks at Jet FM and Vista for hosting us here.
For sure. Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to having a few more guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we got a whole bunch on the line. I know my week's getting really busy because we're trying to put the the restaurant all settled down with Locals Restaurant, with getting everything
Busy time,
organized and
yeah.
going, end of the year. Yeah, trying to make sure everyone's on the right place. And then I'm starting my first class up at North Island College
Oh, mate, we need to talk about that.
in about 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
that's going to be amazing. I've got some professional cooks level 1 students coming in. So we're going to teach them how to be chefs.
And
you
it's
know,
going to be September in a few weeks.
and it's going to be September, and it's just
and that's it.
flown
We're on
by.
the Easter. No, we're on the Easter. Wrong. I'm going the wrong direction.
Yeah, we're going towards Thanksgiving.
Halloween.
Thanksgiving, so we're going to have to do a little chatting about Thanksgiving. We're
Yep.
going to have to get some chefs in here. We'll get some farmers in here, because you know what? Their time is slowing down a little bit, so they
Yeah.
get a little bit of a break. So we'll get them in here to chat to us.
We're going to
a bit.
do it all the way through autumn and going into winter. We're going to be there by your side, helping you here in the Comox Valley. And I want to quickly add in 23rd of December. Our new little baby's going to be born.
Ah,
Our
congratulations.
new little baby girl. So, yeah, I'll be talking about that. I might be calling in sick for a few podcasts.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just be John on his own.
I will find some people to come in and chat, and we'll get this done. So.
Yeah, I'd be really annoyed if you replaced me. Like,
No,
if it
no.
was good, it probably would be really good. And
No,
I'd be
no.
like, "Nah."
No.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks for listening. I'm William Stringer.
I'm Chef Jonathan Fraser. Thank you.
Have a great one.